Welcome in to Movin the Chains, brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. I'm Kevin Thomas alongside John Epps here for our Week 4 preview show. John, we opened last week's show saying that it was kind of a weak slate, not the biggest high-profile games, but this week is the exact opposite, man. The whole state is loaded with matchups from 1A to 5A, just huge heavyweight bouts everywhere.
And the great thing about it is, too, it's not, we just got a bunch of really good games in the Midlands. We got some great games down the low country, some great games in the Midlands, some great games in the upstate, too. I mean, they are all over the place.
It's going to be a fun show and a fun week of football, no doubt about it. But if you guys are tuning in for the first time, we appreciate you. Like our video here, share it, comment, tell your friends. Obviously, we're at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, etc. Our website, movinchains.com. That's got a link to everything that we do. It's got videos on there, all kinds of really cool stuff as well. Our podcast on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. We do a live preview show here on Tuesday nights about 7 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube. We also do a recap show, comes out Sundays on the audio-only podcast version there. We do our Friday Night Spaces on Twitter. That's a lot of fun, about 10:30 to kind of do a scoreboard trip every Friday night as well. Join us for that. And we have great things like Player of the Week, Team of the Week, our Pick'em contest, all kinds of great stuff throughout the week as well. Drill and John. Drill's in the background there. Appreciate you, man, as always. But let's get going here, guys, with our CONA games of the week. You know, usually we do 4 plus a SCISA game. This week, but we couldn't narrow it down. So we got a few extras this week, man, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Our games of the week brought to you by CONA, CONA.care to learn more about their services. Let's start here, Drill and John, with a big 4A, 5A cross-classification matchup. And that's Northwestern at Gaffney. The Trojans 2-1. Their long loss to Providence Day back in Charlotte in week 0. Gaffney 3-1. Their long loss week 0 to Crest over in North Carolina as well. Northwestern 62-0 over Nation Ford last week. Gaffney 24-7 over Mallard Creek. Finley Polk led the Trojans going 14 for 18 for 217, 4 touchdowns through the air, and 5 for 40 on the ground with another touchdown running the ball. We know about Trevor Richard, one of the best players in the state, a Super 75 guy there for us. Wide receivers Greer Hopkins and Burris and Nichols are big-time playmakers. The whole D-line is back from last year, John. I keep calling it. I'm sorry, man. I'll get it right here in a minute. The whole D-line is back. They call themselves the Ninja Turtles, kind of, looking back at the Clemson guys from back a few years ago. That's really cool there. Massey and Perry are really good players as well in the backfield there in the secondary for them. Gaffney quarterback Riley Staten goes 19 for 25 last week. Running back Jaden McDowell goes 18 for 137. Amazing Littlejohn, Drew Medley, DeMarcus Smith, all weapons outside. Defensively led by Rupp, Dowdle, Putnam, and those guys. Last year, John, Gaffney started off slow, and they had this game against Northwestern, and they really handled business 28-7. I didn't see that coming at all last year. This year, I think both teams are playing a little bit better than they were when they started at this point last year. What do you think happens over at the reservation? This is just 2 powerhouse programs getting after it.
And these are 2 really, really good teams this year. Again, we say this almost every year when you talk about either one of these programs. Both talented. I've seen Gaffney in person this year. They've got a lot of team speed, especially on that defensive side of the ball. Their linebackers fly around. They're great. They're very, very strong up front. That defensive line makes things very difficult for opposing quarterbacks, and also to run the ball. They made South Pointe a relatively one-dimensional team in that game I went to. Northwestern, I've not seen play this year. We've seen them numerous times in the past, and it's a common theme with the Trojans. They're a disciplined team. They play clean football. They don't beat themselves. And I think if they do that at the reservation, that's a tall task, because the reservation it's a tough place to play, and very, very good teams like South Pointe go into the reservation to make a ton of mistakes. They look undisciplined. They're a little out of sorts. It's a tough place to go into and a tough place to win. I think, though, if the Trojans can go in there, not shoot themselves in the foot, not do things to put them behind the chains like I saw South Pointe do, I think Northwestern's got a great chance to win this ball game, because Gaffney, as good as they are, as talented as they are, they were not sharp that game either. They made a lot of self-inflicted penalties, and that worries me with the Indians. I think they are the better team in this matchup, But if they are constantly making mistakes, having that yellow flag on the field, going against them, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I think Northwestern wins this game because of that, because of their ability to play really clean football and be relatively mistake-free. Whereas Gaffney, I haven't seen that from them yet this year. I didn't see it in that South Pointe game. They've got to do that if they want to win this game. If they don't do that, I don't think they win. Now, if they do, props to you. You deserve it, and they probably will win. But that's why I'm going to go. I'm leaning Northwestern here.
I like, looking back at Northwestern week 0, we talked about that Providence Day game against Jaden Davis and all that talent that those guys had there. Jaden Davis and crew threw all over the Trojans. They give, I think, 40-plus points, 300-plus pass yards, just like crazy numbers to those guys. But they really turned around and played really well against Clover a couple weeks back, shut out what we thought was an improving Nation 4 team last week, didn't have any problems with those guys. Defense seems to be improved on that back end, but that was a worry I had after that Providence Day game, because looking back to last year, South Florence, Lenore Sellers threw all over those guys. Then it happens again in week 0, but they may have improved that. This will be their first big test since that Providence Day game, I would say, for sure. One thing I like that Gaffney has going for them in their favor is the kicking game. Spadavecchia, a guy that's been there for a long time. If it comes down to crunch time, they need a kick. He's going to be comfortable out there, not going to be nervous. He can certainly make it, and special teams could be a big play in a game like this where two teams are so talented, such a close matchup. If you get a big return maybe, or maybe it's a big field goal, whatever it is, that can be the difference in the ball game. You know me, I love Trevor Richard. I love Finley Polk. But, man, it's hard to pick against Gaffney at home, isn't it?
It's very hard. It is very hard. And that's why I'm putting in that caveat. If they make mistakes, if they play great, if they play their game, I don't think they're going to be beat. But, hey, you pick Gaffney, I'm going to pick Northwestern.
I didn't say I picked them yet.
Oh.
Uh-oh. I mean, my worry, you saw them play South Pointe. That's a huge win. South Pointe's a very good football team. I think Northwestern's better than South Pointe.
I do too.
I don't think either team, if they lose this game, should be upset about it. I think it's going to be a close ball game. I think we're going to see a lot of points, honestly. I think both defenses are going to struggle. I think Gaffney with Little John's going to put up big numbers. I think Polk and Hopkins and Richard put up big numbers. I think I like Northwestern in a close one, but I may circle back and change that in the next 2 minutes. You never know. But that's where I'm thinking right now. But that's going to be a great ball game at the reservation on Friday night.
Yeah, that's going to be a ton of fun. I do want to mention, I looked a little bit at Providence Day earlier today because, Charlotte School, we don't know a ton about them. They won their state championship last year, 55-13. They have smoked everybody else as they've played so far this year. For Northwestern to go toe-to-toe with those guys, game 1,
and they had a real chance to win that game.
Hey, boy, they stink, they lost. No, they battled.
Had a real chance to win that one too.
I'm taking receipts, guys. I was doing this for Patrick in the chat. You guys are both going with Northwestern.
Yeah. Put it on the tape. Mark the tape. That's fine. If they lose, they lose. That's fine. I'm not pulling for Northwestern. I'm just making the pick.
I love it. I've been wrong many times on this show, so it won't be the first, won't be the last for sure. But that is a big time matchup over there at the reservation. Our second CONA game of the week, John. A big 4A game here that, we've kind of been circling for the last couple of weeks, and that's Irmo at 3-0 traveling to Kellytown to take on Hartsville, who's 4-0. Irmo was off last week. Hartsville defeated Dillon 51-34 in a game that was probably closer than that. Dillon had the lead for a good portion of that ball game, and the Red Foxes come back. Irmo led by quarterback A.J. Breen, who's got 12 TDs on the season. Running back Jaden Allen Hendricks, the transfer from Gilbert, who's been going off for them. Wide receivers Donovan Murph and Smith are playing really well. The defense is only giving up 15 points over 3 games. That's not the stiffest competition, but still Chapman, Lancaster, River Bluff, 3 pretty good teams. Lancaster put up 40-plus last week against Fairfield Central. We've seen what River Bluff, they put up 60, I think, last week against South Aiken. So to hold those guys to an average of 5 is really impressive there. Hartsville, they got the run game. Carmelo McDaniel, 174, 2 touchdowns last week. Hakeem Waters, 196 and 4 touchdowns last week. Quarterback McKendry Douglas goes for over 100-plus as well, and he can throw it a little bit. Defensively led by Coe and Barnes. Hartsville is one of the teams that I'm highest on in the whole state, especially in 4A. The Dillon game gave me a little bit of pause. Dillon had some chances to win that ball game last week. I thought Hartsville was going to kind of, lean on them the whole game, but they didn't. I like what Irmo's doing with Brand. A really good young quarterback. Irmo won this game last year, 17-14. But I like Hartsville with that offense at home. Tough to prepare for, really. But the week off does help Irmo. I'll give them that. But I still like Hartsville in a close one.
Yeah, Irmo has looked really, really good to start the season, but I'm worried because of the competition they've played. They haven't played anybody thus far. You mentioned Lancaster have put up some points. Lancaster showed a little bit of pizzazz, but Hartsville's been a little bit more tested last 2 weeks. Camden really beaten up on what we think is a decent Bulldogs team. And then last week, facing a lot of adversity between the white walls on the road. Quarterback got hurt for a little bit in that game. I don't know that he came back or not.
He did.
I think
he did come back. Yep.
He did come back. They're down in that game, had him get hurt. The environment was top level. And for them to come out and not only win, yet I think that game was closer than 17 points, but they won 51-34. And what's crazy is that's been their worst offensive game of the year.
They still got 50 plus. Yeah.
They've gone 55 every single game, and then they go 51 against Dillon, a Dillon team that plays defense too, not a Dillon team that is bad on that side of the football. And I'm right with you. The Red Foxes are a team that you got to mark as being one of the best teams in the state, regardless of classification. I'm excited about this game because I want to see how good Irmo is.
Yeah.
This will be their biggest test. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe until the playoffs. We'll see. And granted, pretty much everybody that's going to play Hartsville can say that too. But I think this is going to be an exciting game to see where Irmo is and where A.J. Brand is too. Very, very good quarterback for the Yellow Jackets. Already has 12 touchdowns on the season. It's going to be two really, really good teams and a matchup we may see in the playoffs too late November.
Yeah, and you look at some of the, I guess, not necessarily intangibles, but not just player-wise stuff. Irmo with the off week, I think that's big because, like I said, Hartsville's offense is tough to prepare for. You get an extra week getting ready for that is huge there. And I think that Irmo's probably got a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Folks have kind of written them off the last few years as not really a major contender in 4A. They started off really hot this year. I think they're still not, but maybe 6 or 7, even 8 in the polls, something like that. So they still want to kind of prove themselves, I feel like, a little bit. But then on the Hartsville side, how much does last year's game play into the fact that you lost out in a close one there? You want to get a little bit of a revenge factor. And they're playing at home, too. Kellytown is not an easy place to play, man. They have a great atmosphere over there. Coach Calabrese gets the crowd into it. They do a good job there. But I like Hartsville to win this game. I think they win this game by 10, 14 points, something like that. I just don't know if that Yellow Jackets defense, which hasn't played so good so far, they've not been tested like this, I feel like.
No, and I completely agree with you. I think that's spot on. I'm thinking a 2-score game. And you talk about the teams with a chip on their shoulder. Talk about Irmo, a little chip on their shoulder. In Irmo, all you hear about football, Dutch Fort. They certainly got a chip on their shoulder just from that alone. So I think this should be an exciting ball game. Hopefully this is a game that's closer than we expect. Hopefully it's one of those fourth quarter, last possession kind of games. And it certainly could be. I think Irmo's got a chance to do that. But I agree with you, Kev. Hartsville's the better team here. And hey, if Hartsville beats them up, it's going to be another accolade for the Red Foxes on putting the rest of the state on notice for 4A. And gosh, 4A is just so great.
Yeah.
We can say this about 3 or 4 teams in 4A.
Loaded. Let's take a look now, John, at our third CONA game of the week. A big-time 5A lower state matchup here. That's the Sumter Gamecocks at 3-1, traveling down to Summerville to take on the Green Wave, who are sitting at 3-0. Sumter coming off that 27-21 double overtime loss to Crestwood. The Green Wave defeated Wando 62-12 last week. Last year, this game, John, Summerville was kind of trying to, get it going a little bit. They played, and Sumter won 16-0. Ended up matching up again in the playoffs, actually, later on in the season there. But the Gamecocks, are they able to get back off the snide, figure it out, get a win down to John McKissick down there? Or did the Green Wave, kind of just cement their place as a top 1 or top 2 team in 5A?
I think Summerville's been number 1 in the poll. I don't know. I want to say Dutch Fork started the media poll as number 1.
Yes.
And then since week 0, Summerville has been number 1. And deservedly so. I don't know that, I put Summerville we'll talk about our poll later. I think Summerville is the unanimous number one in our poll as well. We'll get to that. They're good. It's I think Sumter is. We talked about this in the preseason, circling this game as being, boy, this could be a lower state championship preview. And it certainly could be that way, because even with Sumter losing that game in double overtime Friday, I still think they're one of the premier teams in 5A. You and Jarrell saw them play firsthand against Ridgeview, a game that we thought was going to be pretty doggone close. And I mean, Sumter came out the gates.
Got out of hand. Yeah.
And said, no. Y'all can beat the traffic if you want. This game's about over. So I think Sumter certainly has the talent. Yeah. One game's not going to define you. We say that time and time again. And Crestwood's very, very good. Crestwood nearly beat Gray.
Yeah.
They had that 62-60 track meet. I think Crestwood doesn't get the respect that they deserve. They're about to, or at least for me, that they will.
Oh, yeah.
But Summerville, they've been tested in that first game. I put a lot of stock in that game. We talk about teams that don't get the respect they should get. And I'll say, I said it before, Carolina Forest deserves that respect. They beat Carolina Forest in that first game, 33-26. That's a big, big deal to me. And then they beat up on Berkeley week after that, a much improved Berkeley squad. We went into the season wondering, can Summerville improve their offense? They had great defense last year. Could they improve offensively? Boy, they have done that and some so far this year. The defense taking a step back, but the Summerville team looks legit. I'm going to go with the Green Wave being at home, especially. That's a long trip. Should be a good atmosphere down there in Summerville. That's a cool stadium.
It is.
Summerville. Really cool stadium down there. I like Summerville in this game.
I think you're right there, John. If you can, look and see who won that playoff matchup last week. I want to say they matched up again in the playoffs, but I cannot remember who won that one. But, Sumter led by quarterback Peyton Merchant. Not asking him to do a lot. It's more about the run game with them. With John Peoples last week went 29 for 142 and 2 touchdowns. Cam Fortune's also a playmaker out wide for those guys. Defense led by Addison and Bracey, 2 guys that looked the part, man. They're studs there in that defensive squad there for the Gamecocks. Summerville led by quarterback Jaden Cummings. Wide receiver Yannick Smith, the ECU commit, getting some Power 5 offers. I think over Kentucky this week. He's an outstanding playmaker, running the ball, catching the ball in the return game. The defense, like we said, John, they were, lights out last year. Same thing with the special teams. Coach Rafferty is getting that program back to kind of being what Summerville of the old days used to be, where a feared program, one that's going to be there year in, year out. I like Summerville at home because, like you said, this is a tough place to play, man. This is not an easy road trip for Sumter to get down there, for one. And the Gamecocks, I need to see a little bit more explosiveness out of them. Drell and I talked about it on the recap show where, they beat Ridgeview pretty handily, but I feel like the big playability wasn't really there. And maybe it is there, just hadn't, unleashed yet. But I need to see somebody that's a game breaker for the Gamecocks. And right now I'm going with Summerville to win this ball game at home.
In that playoff game last year, Summerville won 7-0.
Yeah, so Sumter won the regular season 16-0, lost the playoffs, Summerville 7-0. That's right. That's how that went. Yep. Well, let's look now at our 4th CONA game of the week. One that this is a third year of this series, I believe, actually, John, here. And that's South Florence at 4-0, traveling up to South Pointe, who's at 3-1. South Florence going off a 30-22 win over that Carolina Forest team you mentioned there, John. South Pointe 31-0 shutout over Chester last week. The Bruins, led by running back Zion Gilbert, wide receiver Jaden Sellers, had 2 touchdowns last week. Defensively led by Harkless and Rhodes. South Pointe quarterback Malachi Marshall, running back Mason Pickett-Hicks and Aiden Turner, receiver Xavier Preston. Defense led by Reese, Wary, Barnett, and Nelson. This is a game that 2 years ago, I think, was a triple overtime game. South Pointe won like 36-30, something like that, 36-33, whatever it was at home. Last year, this was kind of South Florence's coming out party. They beat these guys 42-7 down in Florence. Folks thought South Florence was good, didn't realize how good they were until that ball game when Lenore Sellers and crew just went off against those guys. So South Pointe's got a little bit of a revenge factor there. Do they want to bounce back from that? But I see this being a knockdown, drag-out fight here Friday night, or John.
Yeah, and being that this game is from Rock Hill, I think that's going to help South Pointe. South Pointe's got a great win. I'm super impressed with that win. First game of the year, beating Spartanburg. Spartanburg team I'm really high on. I know you want to see them score more points, but I thought that was a really gritty win for them. And on the other side, South Florence, boy, they haven't slipped at all. They've got two really, really good wins in my book, beating Oceanside. Beat Oceanside 28-6. Very impressive. Who cares if they're 2A? They're really good. And then, as you said, beating Carolina Forest last week. I think South Florence is just a better team.
Yeah.
I think they're just a better team. We were questioning what this Bruins team was going to look like without Lenore Sellers. That guy is incredible. Great to see him getting some playing time in Columbia on Saturday night. That was cool to see him get some action, get a touchdown on the board. But this team is still really good. They're built to last. They're not just one player. I think South Florence wins this ball game, and I think the big thing, and I'm critical of Gaffney for the same reason. South Pointe, they could have won that game at the reservation. They really could have won that game. They just gave themselves too many 1st and 15s, 3rd and 20s, penalties, calling back big plays, and penalties that weren't really needed. It went like, that crackback block really freed them up. No, stuff that could be avoided. And again, South Florence is another team. They're a lot like Northwestern. They don't beat themselves. They don't make a ton of mistakes. They play clean football, and they're very, very talented too. I like South Florence in this game because I think while South Point has just as much talent, they just don't play. I don't think they play disciplined enough right now. That could change. It's a long season, but right now, I don't think they're disciplined enough to win this game over a really, really good South Florence team, possibly the best team in 4A.
Yeah, I will say I'm very sure to see the Bruins quarterback. And obviously he has not played in an environment like this. That Carolina Forest win is great, but that's not South Point.
No, it's not.
Going up to Rock Hill too, that's going to be tough to see. But I like the Bruins as well. I think that team is good. Coach Marlowe has got them rolling already, and they're going to be a tough out for anyone. I think the Bruins win a close one here up at South Point. Our 5th CONA game of the week. Sorry, I lost count there, John. We got so many this week.
Hey, that's okay.
We got a 3A battle here. The Chapman Panthers at 3-1, traveling down to Clinton to take on the Red Devils at 4-0. Chapman 48-3 over Lawrence last week. Clinton 63-6 over Aiken. John, Chapman's big win earlier in the year over Burns. That's what people kind of standing on. They did lose to Bowling Springs a couple weeks ago by I think 29-7, something like that. Clinton not really tested yet. Last year, Clinton did win this game 49-19. Who do you like in this ball game? Two, really good upper state 3A squads.
Yeah, Chapman has shown that firepower to be able to beat Burns. That was an impressive win, and they've played good outside of that as well. But Clinton's they've been the Red Devil football again.
Yeah.
They've been very, very good. I don't take too much stock out of Chapman losing that Bowling Springs game. We saw Bowling Springs play last Friday. They're pretty doggone good on that defensive line. I could see them giving a 3A team like Chapman a lot of trouble up front. So I get that. And I think just regardless, I think Bowling Springs has a pretty good defense. Yeah. But I think Clinton is I think they're good. I think they're probably a little bit, maybe a step ahead of Chapman, and they're at home. If this game was Inman rather, could be interesting. But I think being in Clinton, I like the Red Devils in this one.
Chapman, led by quarterback Coleman Gray, can run it and throw it. A good player back there for those guys. Receiver Rashawn Cunningham is a great athlete for them. Running back Matthias Scott, defensively led by Smith and Lynch and Scott and Mickles there. Clinton, quarterback Tyshawn Richardson, is having to throw it more than what they usually do. Part of that's due to his skill set. He's just a good passer of the football, but also some injuries. We mentioned a couple guys already out with Robinson and Copeland hurt for the Red Devils. They've got guys like McClennan and Cook filling in at the running back spot there. Zay Johnson, the defensive back, playing some split in for them. The Cincinnati commit is a great playmaker for them. And last week he took a punt back to the house, I think it was. Maybe a big special teams play, something like that is a springboard in this ball game. That'll be huge to see from him. The defense has played really good so far this year. Gave, I think, 28 week 0, but after that has allowed 7, 7, and 6. So Coach Campbell's got that squad flying around that side of the ball. And I think they're going to need it. Until they figure out this running back situation, they've had so many injuries, it's hard to know for sure if these guys are going to be comfortable yet. They're going to need the defense to play good and the special teams to play good. I think I like Clinton at home because it's a tough place to play down at Wilder Stadium, man. And then we mentioned the special teams last year. I feel like Bryson James, either a punt block or a punt return, a kick return for a touchdown, or Copeland, one of the guys last year, every game. Kind of got back to that last week with Zay Johnson getting one in there. this is a big-time football game in 3A. We'll find out, I think, just how good both these teams are. But I like Clinton in a close one at home.
Yeah, where Chapman does have, I think, an advantage. They've been more tested for sure. They played a higher competition. You look at Clinton, best team that they've played so far. I don't know. Maybe Batesburg, Leesville.
Yeah.
Haven't
been tested. They haven't.
It's tough. It's tough to say. This Chapman team will certainly be the best team that they've faced thus far. And then Chapman, on the other hand, they played Burns and Boiling Springs back-to-back weeks. I think they got a solid defense there at Chapman. I think the defense at Clinton is probably just as good.
Yeah.
Or very comparable. And then when you look at the offense side of the football, I think Clinton's ahead of Chapman there. And then with the added in home field advantage, I like the Red Devils. But I think probably a one-score game.
Yeah, interesting to see what Coach Cab has got going on there. We haven't seen Chapman play in person yet this year. Last year, a very good squad, just not quite at the level as what Chapman had been the past couple of years. They're still a good team, made the playoffs, made a little run there. But I think this year's team is much better for him there. We've got a lot of pieces that we've heard of before that have been back and got some experience now. But I like Clinton. I think it comes down to a big special teams played by Zay Johnson. And I think the quarterback is going to show up too. I think Richardson's going to have a couple nice passing touchdowns in this ball game to kind of catch the Panthers off guard. I like Clinton in a close one here. Our sixth CONA game of the week, a Greenville County matchup here, John. JL Mann sitting at 4-0, traveling to Serene Stadium, taking on Greenville at 2-2. Greenville won this game 49-6 last year. JL Mann 49-13 over Easley last week. Quarterback Ethan Anderson goes for 319 and 4 touchdowns. Running back Obadiah Jones, 124 on the ground on 8 carries and a touchdown. Watch here, Mikael McClellan, Keyshawn Henderson had big games as well. Defensively led by Jakari Bennett and Jaden Rice. Greenville, 52-7 over Malden. Quarterback Bryson Drummond threw 3 touchdowns last week. The Picklesheimer kid is still playing some quarterback. He's more of a runner than Drummond is. Running backs Jay Sherman, Kyler Zimmerman. Wide receivers Mosley and Renfro. Maceo Bennett is still questionable in concussion protocol. Not sure if he'll be back or not this week. I know he was out last week. He's going through the protocol. We'll see if he plays or not. That'd be big if he does, of course. Defensively led by Jaden Wilson Abrams, Romani Burton, who had 3 picks last week, John, and then Christian Henderson at DB as well. This is a game to me where JL Mann last year started off hotter than Coach Scoot Watson. Won a nice, I think 3 or 4 games to start the season. Played Greenville, got blown out, and that kind of, they played okay this year, but they didn't really ascend to the heights we thought they might. This is a game where they want to prove that they are for real. I think they're a much better team this year than they were last year. That offense has got a lot more continuity. They've been there and, going through games like this before. And especially if Bennett doesn't play, I think JL Mann has a real shot to win this ball game on the road.
They certainly do. And, I talk a lot about quarterback play. Anderson is great, great signal caller for the Patriots. The offense all starts with him. And we saw that firepower last year at times where, they could put up a ton of points. They've been more consistent starting off this year. They've been over 40 points every single game. So that shows a sign of maturity growing up that they've got that consistency thus far. But it scares me because, they don't have a marquee win yet. And, Greenville, you can argue, Greenville don't really have a marquee win yet either. They played some tough competition. And, you could say Dorman, but I don't know how good Dorman is this year.
Yeah.
But, the 2 best teams they played, Hanna and Burns, they got beat. So I think Greenville, when it comes down to it, I think Greenville still is the team with more talent. If Maceo Bennett does not play, that gap certainly gets a lot closer, right? I think Greenville's the better team in this ball game. I don't think the JL Mann environment should be great, but it's not like going to District 3 Stadium in Rock Hill or going to the reservation. I think Greenville will be fine. It's close by. It should be a fun game. I think Greenville wins this one though.
I like JL Mann. I'm very interested to see the receivers versus the DBs of Greenville. Like I said, Henderson and McClellan are studs for JL Mann. And you got Henderson and Burton there for Greenville playing defense. It's going to be a great matchup there for those guys. But I think especially if Maceo's out, I like JL Mann. If he plays, completely different ball game there. But if he's out, I like JL Mann to win this one.
Now, do we know what's banged up with Maceo?
Concussion protocol. Yep. So we'll see what happens with that. Our sixth CONA game of the week, our SCISA game of the week here. Hilton Head Christian going to Northwood. Hilton Head Christian knocked off Ben Lippin, 31-14 last week for their first win of the season. Quarterback Dylan Clark, a dual threat guy, has been playing for several years. Wide receivers Zatolican and Manziel, defensively led by Zane Wilson, had 14 tackles last week. Richardson, McCollum, Anderson as well. Northwood, 40-12 over Thomas Hayward. Quarterback Austin Grady, 19 for 29, 284, 2 touchdowns. Singleton on the ground, 25 for 172, 3 touchdowns. Hogan and Hill out wide. How about this, John? So they're 3-0 in the year, Northwood is. They were winless the past 3 seasons, and now Johnny Waters comes in. They've won 3 in a row. The Chargers are playing some good football. They want to avenge a 56-6 loss last year to Hilton Head Christian. I think Northwood is a very good football team this year. Got some new talent in there. I think they run this record to 4-0 and continue to roll. I'm
going to go Hilton Head Christian. They have been good last few years. And is this game in Hilton Head?
Northwood.
It's in Northwood. I was hoping that the game was in Hilton Head, and they make the decision a little bit easier. I'm still going to take Hilton Head Christian in this ball game. But you want to talk about Northwood, you could argue they are, who for sure is the most better improved team than these guys.
Yeah.
They got a lot going for them, even if they lose Friday.
Yeah, you lose 26 plus in a row and you win 3 in a row to start the new season. It's pretty fun there.
Pretty doggone cool.
So those are our 7 CONA games of the week. Northwestern at Gaffney, Irmo at Hartsville, Sumter at Summerville, South Florence at South Pointe, Chapman at Clinton, Mann at Greenville, and then Hilton at Christian at Northwood. If you guys are just tuning in and you missed one of those ball games, when we get finished, you can go back to the beginning of the show and check it out, listen to it. We gave a breakdown of all of those, and it was a lot of fun. Jarrell, any comments from the crew, from the crowd? I'm sure it's blowing up that we need to address before we move into the 5A ranks.
Yes, we have lots of comments, and we will not be getting Christmas cards from anyone in Cherokee County this year.
Well, that's to be expected,
my man.
That's okay.
Louisville, the lines are hot. Bradley, what's going on, buddy?
Good.
Derek will say big one for Powdersville tonight or this week. Dion Strom Thurman, what's going on, man? T, appreciate you hopping in here, buddy. Let's go, Marion. They continue to roll, John.
Marion looking good.
Thurman's back. Hey, they are, man. They got some things worked out. I think the Thurman team's going to be tough out for anybody.
Take it those Georgia boys.
And so it begins.
So we got a Northwestern pick there with Caleb as well. Thumbs down for Patrick. Yeah,
fair. That's fair. I get it.
I love it, Bulldog. And Big Gaffney. Hey, Gaffney's always tough.
We'll see. They better change the next up.
Richie, you're right, man. 4A is so competitive. That lower state's going to be a lot of fun this year. Appreciate you, Zach, as always, hopping in, man. It's a loaded week for sure.
Got a lot of them.
We'll get to this one later.
Ooh, Corn's calling it now. North Augusta. That was a big win from last week. Zach, it was, man. We had 7 of them. We know how to get them in there. Go, Greg. Kevron's going to make Greg's got a big matchup up in D.C. this week.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Leonard, man, hey, we may switch it back, man. My head's going both ways, but we did go Northwestern off the bat here, but it will be a fun one. Jarrell's not on anybody's side.
Jarrell hasn't said anything. He hasn't said anything.
You never know with Jarrell. Come on, guys.
Yeah, Northwestern's really good.
Packed house, Clinton. 100 years of Clinton high school football. That's really cool, man. That'll be a great turnout there for sure, Zach, at that ball game.
That will be cool.
Need a repick. Hey, it may happen, man, but we're both going Northwestern right now.
11 o'clock Friday night, I may repick.
Steven said AC4 won't fare well against the 4A teams. Y'all surprised how close that BC game was last week? We'll get more to AC4 here in a little bit.
I think you're on something, Steven.
Is Greenville overrated? Ooh, Zach, that's a question.
A great point.
I have been questioning a few things about them the last couple of weeks. They started off, like you said, a couple weird losses, I felt like, to TL Hanna especially. Burns is a good football team. I get that one, but stuff they're doing that haven't made a lot of sense to me yet. We'll see. After this week, I'll give a better vibe for them, but they may be. They may be.
And, I touched on Greenville, so I'm still not sold on that offensive line. They've had all kind of talent last couple of years, and gosh, their pass protection has just not been good. And that's a problem. You got great talent on the outside, but if you're running for your life, it makes it tough.
Northwestern is a powerhouse. Yeah, exactly right, Brad. I think either one of these teams are going to have to win state titles in their class. These teams are both loaded. Like, it's nothing bad against either one of them. I think they're both super, super good football teams.
Yeah, if Gaffney does win Friday, I mean, that's going to be hey, you know what? The South Pointe was just not a fluke, but hey, we didn't have all our stuff. We weren't 100% sharp, but we can, and they certainly can. Not that they can't beat Northwestern.
Yeah.
But if they do, it's going to be hey, we're back.
That's all I've got right now. You guys want to send a shout out to our sponsors real quick?
Perfect. Let's do that. Then we'll look into the 5A slate and start rolling.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
The George Agency has been serving the insurance needs of South Carolina for over 40 years. They're a full-line insurance agency concentrated in employee benefits and health insurance with an office in Mullins and Murrells Inlet, but they can help you all across the state. They have clients in Greer, Rock Hill, Columbia, and more, so wherever you are, they can help. Give Bradley, Wayne, Richard, and the crew a call or check them out online at thegeorgeagency.net. That's thegeorgeagency.net.
All right.
Are we back? All right. Appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. If you missed our games of the week, feel free to go back and watch that after we get finished to check out those 7 CONA games. We still got a couple comments here regarding some SCISA and some 2A and stuff. We'll get to that in a bit here, folks. So we're going to start at 5A and work our way down. John's look at the 5A slate here, John, and then roll from there.
Goose Creek hits the road. They're going to go up to Blythewood Friday night. Boiling Springs will host Greer. Burns hosting Wren. That's an interesting game. I think Wren can make that game closer than people expect. And I tell you what, if Burns don't bring it, they could be in trouble in that one. Brooklyn Case will be at Chapin. Conway hosting Loris. Dillon hosting Socastee. Clover will be at Dorman.
Interesting matchup for me there. Clover has not played their best football this year. A couple early losses to Northwestern and Hillcrest, but they beat York last week. Dorman is a team that I hadn't really figured out yet either. They had the nice win against North Augusta a few weeks back. They've lost to Greenville. They lost to Greenwood as well. Interesting how that one turns out on Friday.
Yeah, I think a little more pressure on Dorman, being at home, but that is a game I think could be pretty doggone close. North Augusta at Dutch Fort. We are all hearing an upset coming. Upset alert. That would be. I tell you what, Dutch Fork has lost some really good teams, and not that North Augusta is bad, but if North Augusta does pull that off, it's going to be, hey, Dutch Fork, what are you doing? You gotta get together at some point here pretty quick.
Yeah, Dutch Fork, the big win over Stratford last week for their first win of the season. North Augusta, a big win over a Greenwood team. Put up a lot of points, I think 49 points last week. I know Corn's calling for the upset in this one. I like Dutch Fork. I think in this game, I think they've kind of figured things out on offense, but we'll see. You never know. But I do like the Silver Foxes, especially at home in Irmo.
They don't lose 4 in a row, do they? Do they? Dion, I think you're probably right. But we'll see. Hey, you got to play the game. That's what makes it so great. We'll have Berkeley at Fort Dorchester.
That's a fun game. That's one of our pickup matchups there. Berkeley, another come from behind win last week over West. Actually, I feel like that's all they do this year. Coach Lodge's got those guys believing. Henry Rivers, one of our players of the week, had a huge game for them. Caden Bash is a playmaker as well. Fort D, fuck, we still don't know a lot about them. They've already had, I think, a bye week last week. They played at Grayson. Hard to find out much about them from that ball game there. Under Coach Josh Smith now taking over the program. Got a couple guys that are rotating at quarterback, but I like the Brown kid at runner. I like Snyder out wide. I kind of think Berkeley might pull an upset here, John. I think the way that they're playing, the way that they're believing in what Coach Lodge is doing, I think they've got a real chance here. Fort D, I do think people are kind of underrating them because of the coaching change. I think they are a very good football team. But I think the Stags, man, just something about the way those guys are playing ball right now has me believing.
Yeah, I tell you what, gosh, if they win that game Friday, that will really, really propel some confidence in those, even more confidence in those guys as we get closer to region play. We'll have Lugoff Elgin going to Fort Mill. Lexington will be at Gilbert. This is a good game here.
2 undefeated teams there, I believe.
If this game was last week, it would have been one of the games of the week probably.
Yeah.
2 pretty good teams over there in the Midlands.
2 teams that want to run the ball a lot. So it could be a quick football game on Friday.
And I feel like we haven't really, we were going through our poll and I'm looking, I go, wow, Lexington's really good.
Yeah.
They're better than what I thought. We look and they go, Lexington won again, but I'm looking through and going, man, Wildcats pretty doggone good. Love what Coach Kurz, what he did at AC Florida. I think he's going to have great success at Lexington too. And Gilbert, a team, I feel like we haven't really talked a whole lot about the Indians yet this year either, but they're they're very, very good once again this year. That should be a fun game. And at Gilbert,
Yeah.
you got to
tough place to play.
You got to take that into account there. Powdersville will be at Hillcrest.
This game was a great ball game last year. Demetrius got Hillcrest over Powdersville, the 5A over the 3A. I like the Rams as well. We saw them firsthand last week, John. We know about Avery McFadden, know what a playmaker that he is. We know about Caleb Sutton, the playmaker that he is at the quarterback spot as well. The defense really, really impressed me. The defensive line especially, but they were getting after the Bowling Springs quarterback all night long. The secondary played great. The linebackers played great. The Rams looked really good to me on a night where the offense wasn't playing their best. The defense kept them in there, and Avery McFadden 3 touchdowns. And what else can you say? I mean, too much Rams firepower there. But now Powdersville, they figured out some things too. I think they're coming off a couple nice wins. Had a 56-point outing last week. Hudgens, obviously, we know he's a great player there. We know about the running back Jaden Pepper as well. They've got some studs outside and on defense. Harrison Jeffries is a really good player, super 75 guy for us there. I can't wait to see that Powdersville OL Hillcrest D-line matchup. That should be a lot of fun. But I'm going to go Hillcrest at home. The Rams are tough at Chandler Stadium. I think the offense plays a little bit better this week, but will be a great ball game between the Rams and the Patriots. Derek says O-line holds up for Powdersville. Yeah, I agree. I mean, if that O-line can give Hudgens some time, they're going to have a real shot. But I do like the Rams to win this ball game.
Yeah, and that's going to be the key for Powdersville, that offensive line. If they can give Hudgens a little bit of time to throw that ball, and Eli Hudgens moves around great.
Yeah,
he moves around great. He's got great pocket presence. Got good poise. We saw a pretty good quarterback in Lincoln Husky at Bowling Springs.
Yeah,
and man, he was doing everything he could do. He was on the run constantly. I did not envy his situation Friday night. He looks like a great player. Just when you're on the run, it's 3rd and long, and he got an aggressive secondary with Hillcrest ball hawking. That's tough. I like Hillcrest in this game too. They look really good. They gotta keep it up though. We said this about Hillcrest in the past where they look really good. But you gotta bring it every single week, and that's tough to do for anybody. But we'll see. I like the Rams in this game. I'm very impressed with that defense. That defense, very, very good.
Yes, I see DJ Henderson here. Great game on Friday, man. You're all over the field. Stud out there for Rams for sure. But I like Hillcrest in this one, but should be a fun matchup over there at Chandler Stadium.
We talk about Florida. And I know someone mentioned this earlier. James Island hosting Cane Bay. Really excited about this James Island team.
Yeah.
I know people like to say, hey, the Low Country kind of gets forgotten about, from time to time. And James Island, the program, we talked a lot about them toward the end of last year because they just kept playing great defense week after week after week. They have continued to do that this year. They're a top 5 team, in my opinion, in 4A for sure. Maybe better than that once they get into it, get tested. They'll host Cane Bay Friday. I think they win that ball game. We've got River Bluff going to Lower Richland. RB Stall will be at Lucy Beckham. Malden hosting West Side. Spartanburg will be going to Riverside. York will be at Rock Hill. Spring Valley hosting Richland Northeast. Ashley Ridge goes to St. James. Carolina Forest will be at Stratford. Greenwood will be going to TL Hanna. 2 very similar offensive mindsets there. That also should be a pretty good game. You got things to do Friday night, go to that game. You can do something after. A lot of running the ball on that one. Wanda will be at West Ashley. South Aiken will go to White Knoll, and Easley goes to Woodmont to round out 5A.
Drill, any comments for 5A we need to look at before we move into 4A?
Just all over the place. I don't want them to get lost in this shuffle, so we'll go ahead and just post them now.
Go Emerald. Hey, the Vikings played tough last week, Travis. They had a real shot against Saluda, couldn't quite pull it out.
Yeah.
Ian, appreciate you hopping in, man. Always good to see you. Keep balling out as always.
Yeah, great game last week.
Yeah, he's trying to look for an explanation why you guys didn't pick him as player of the week.
I'll put that on Jarrell Hendricks. I'm just gonna put it out there.
Yeah, Jarrell.
Yeah, if North Augusta beats Dutch Fork, they will be a favorite. I think you're right there, Zach. That would be a huge win. Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't think so either.
Hard to think Dutch Fork loses that many ball games. You're right. Yes, to pick a matchup, Zach, very tough this week.
Could be a low score for me.
Andy Woodmont keeps climbing. Yes, they do, man. They're playing great football. Jordan Sink throwing the ball is doing great. They got a couple of running backs getting it done as well on the ground. I think they continue to win under Coach Sutherland. They got a good program rolling right now.
Let's keep rolling, guys.
Looking down at 4A now, John.
Barnwell will go to Aiken.
Aiken, new coach Dwayne Garrick, former Barnwell coach. Fun to see how that matchup plays out. Aiken, not very good this year. I think Barnwell wins this one easily.
We'll have Fox Creek going to Airport. Battery Creek hosts Bluffton. Beaufort will be hosting May River.
Fun game there. Beaufort, I think, has found some things. A big win over Goose Creek last week. May River had a nice one as well. Tanner Macy had a huge game for those guys. I think Beaufort at home wins this one, but it's an interesting matchup in the Low Country.
Yeah, and I think I got a little bit higher on May River than maybe I should have. Or not Goose Creek, rather. And it seems like we talk almost every week. Hey, somebody had a really good win over Goose Creek. I just think it might be Goose Creek. It's not very good this year. But yeah, that should be a good game down in Beaufort. We'll have Wade Hampton at Blue Ridge. Berea will go to Broome. Very good Broome team. Keep your eye on those Centurions. AC Flora will be at Camden. That could be an interesting game. I think Camden has got to win this game.
They need to win bad.
because they've looked worse last couple weeks than what I expected. We expect Camden to be high level. And gosh, they should be. We know they lost so much on the defensive line, but they got so much experience on the offensive side of the football this year. Big game for Camden. They should win this ball game. They're at home. AC Flora, somebody mentioned earlier, maybe AC Flora's not as good this year. They certainly don't seem to be. Big game here. Big game for both of them.
I'm going to say right now, if Camden loses again, ding, 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 we're ringing the alarm bells, John. We got an issue.
Keep in mind, this is a
good AC Flora team. It is.
This is a 4A AC Flora team. We're talking Camden's 3A. So I expect Camden to win this ball game, though.
Yep.
Chester will host Catawba Ridge. Ridgeview goes to Dreer. Eastside hosting Travelers Rest. We talked about Dutch Fork hosting North Augusta. Hampton County will host Hilton Head.
Hilton Head, a team that might be better than we think. They blew out Wilson last week, 43-0. One of our teams of the week. Didn't see that coming. Hampton County, we know they're a pretty good 2A squad. Those 2A, 4A matchups are always tough for the young lower classes there. But interesting to see how that one turns out.
And this game is in Hampton County too.
Yeah.
I think Hilton Head wins this game too. But yeah, I think you're exactly right. I think Hilton Head might be actually pretty good. We'll see how that one goes. I feel like we had the same conversation about this time of the year last year with James Island. Okay, well, actually, these guys might be pretty good.
Yeah.
We'll have Westside going to Malden. Carleton County goes to North Charleston. Daniel will be at Pickens.
Daniel, we got to say something. I feel like we're going to keep going past every week because they don't play the toughest schedule, but they are very good again, man. Loaded. Jakari Bennett is just getting it done on the ground, man. He's having a huge season already. Defense playing well. Those boys are good up there in Oconee County.
Yeah, and you talk about a program, Dutch Fork's one of them. Gaffney is certainly one of them. Northwestern. Daniel does it as good as anybody in the state where you go, man, they lost Pierman at quarterback. They lost Myson Kelly. What are they going to do? Every year they are just, it's another name. It's the same story that, they throw the ball very well. They got good weapons on the outside, and every year they keep doing it. It's just different names. So hats off to that. Hats off to that coaching staff for being able to do that. And hats off to those kids for being, hey, when it's their time to step up, they're doing it. They're doing it, and they're doing it again this year. We'll have Union hosting Lawrence. Two teams that are not very good. So this is a good chance for either one of those to get a W Friday. Midland Valley will be at Westwood. South Aiken goes to White Knoll. Wilson hosts Darlington, and Easley goes to Woodmont.
Yeah, I like Woodmont to win that ball game. Could see some points there in that South Aiken ball game against White Knoll. Two really explosive offenses. Drill, any 4A comments? We looked into the 3A ranks.
Just a couple. This is funny, of course.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there, Zach. Barnwell big bounce back win over O-Dub last week. I think they get another one over Aiken.
And just some housekeeping. I think these guys just missed this part of the show so far. So if they want to go back.
Yeah, for sure. Andy said, if you missed, we broke it. That was one of our games of the week. That's at the beginning of the show. Go check that out later. We both I think that's a great ball game there. Demetrius, we both picked Hillcrest. You missed it. We talked about in the 5A ranks. We think the Rams get another win. hope you guys keep rolling. You're playing some good football for sure.
Yeah, man, looking a lot more consistent, and Hillcrest just a lot better on defense this year. They look really good defense this year.
Yep.
Yeah, Dion, boy, Midland Valley is
playing great. Trayvon Dunbar over 1,000 yards already. I think 4 games in the season. Yep, exactly. Yeah, playing great football there for Coach Chapman. The guys are believing in what he's doing, playing good football. Mike, big on Greenville this week. Hey, certainly could be. They put up 50-plus last week. I think Jail Man's a little bit better than Malden, but we'll see. And I think that's the key. Can the Jail Man defense hold up against the Red Raiders?
And I think Calvin Banks may be our first back-to-back player of the week candidate here. So got to side with you there, Andy. That's good stuff. But we can go on and move to 3A, guys.
Let's look at 3A now, John.
We'll start with Abbeville. They host Crescent.
The Panthers need a win. I want to see them look good for 2 halves. The first couple weeks they started out super slow, had to battle back and play good. Last week, couldn't really do it over against a very good West Side team. Need to see Abbeville play a good, complete game this week.
Yeah, and you like to think they can do that against Crescent at home Friday night. Andrews will host Waccamaw. Philip Simmons will be at Ainer. One of the 3 of us in this group is very high on Philip Simmons. You'll see that in the poll. One of us, not 3 of us or 2 of us, just one of us. Bluffton will be at Battery Creek. Wade Hampton goes to Blue Ridge. Swansea will be at C.A. Johnson. Southside High School goes to Carolina. Brooklyn Casey goes to Chapin. We talked about one of our games of the week. Chapman going to Clinton. Conway hosting Loris. Dreer will host Ridgeview. Travelers Rest goes to East Side. Emerald hosts Belton Hunya Path. That's Emerald looks to be improved. They look to be good.
Emerald's got a good defense.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's going to have to stop Marquise Henderson, who's a absolute stud, but I think Emerald is improving, like you said, John.
I think so too. Pendleton will go to Fountain Inn. Hanahan will host Timberland. Lake City hosting Georgetown. Andrew Jackson goes to Lakewood. Crestwood, big win over Sumter. They will go to they'll go to North Central on Friday. Silver Bluff at Orangeburg Wilkinson. Walhalla going to Palmetto. Marlboro County will be at Ridgeland Hardyville. And Chesney will go to Woodruff.
Yeah, that Walhalla Palmetto matchup, a couple of new coaches there, Chris Stone and Ryan Norton getting after it. Both have gotten a win already this year. Big ball games there. Let's see, a couple comments here. Emerald BHP, yep, should be a fun ball game there. I like the Bears in that one, Travis. Anything else, Drell, for 3A?
No, let's keep rolling, guys.
Perfect. Looking down at 2A.
We'll have Palmetto Christian goes to Academic Magnet. Barnwell goes to Aiken. We talked about that one a little bit. Fox Creek at Airport. Chesterfield goes to Blacksburg. Branchville hosting Edisto.
Branchville team playing some good football so far. I think they're undefeated on the year. Got a pretty good running back down there. I think they're playing some good ball.
Buford will host Carolina High School out of North Carolina. Central of Pageland hosting Lakeview. Cross will host Lake Marion. Gray, we talked about going to D.C. They were supposed to play Eau Claire.
I think it's St. John's College, I think is the name of the school.
I want to say, is that game Saturday? I thought I saw.
I don't know. I'm not sure. Honestly, I don't know a lot about that school either. We'll see what happens. I know Gray has been able to line up some other ball games for down the stretch here, but
glad to be able to play football.
Yeah, we'll see what happens when they travel up north here this week. Hope they win. Like I said, we say this every week when we have an out-of-state game. We hope the South Carolina team wins. So pulling hard for Gray to win this ball game.
Fairfield Central will host Keenan. King Street will go to Hemingway. Oceanside will be at Legion Collegiate.
Not happening this week. Legion Collegiate is not having a football team this year. I can't remember who Oceanside's playing. They may be off this week. I don't know. But they're not playing Legion. I know that.
Okay. Sherrall will go to Marion.
Fun game there last year. Marion dropped 70 on the Braves in the regular season and then loosed them in the playoffs. Sherrall had a tough loss last week. Kind of surprised by the way that one went. Marion continues to roll. I think the Swamp Foxes offense will be too much this week again.
Yeah, I think Sherrall is much. They're certainly improved from last year, but I don't think they're at the level of the Swamp Foxes. Not yet. Columbia will go to Mid Carolina. Mullins hosting Red Springs out of North Carolina. Newberry will host Batesburg Leesville.
Fun game there between those two squads. I think Newberry's a little bit better. That'll be a fun matchup there in 2A.
And be at home, I like the Bulldogs in that one. Landrum will go to Spartanburg Christian. Strom Thurn, we talked about, they will host Evans, Georgia. Pulling hard for the Rebels in that one. Hope they win that ball game.
Yeah, back off of a bye. I think Quan Edmond, is the starting quarterback now, solidified in that spot. Had a great year last year when he was able to play. Obviously know about Braylon Staley and JoJo Barrett down there, good players as well. Bulldog, heard the Augusta Christian quarterback transferred to Evans. Certainly could have. Okay. Augusta Christian had some good athletes down there. I've not been able to hear that, but it could have happened for sure.
Woodland will be hosting Bishop England as well, and that rounds out the 2A slate.
Anything else, Jarrell, in 2A before we look down at 1A?
It's a couple things, and then we got
Strom by 14. Yep.
And then we got Mike tuned in on YouTube. Got some score predictions for you guys.
Riverside over Spartanburg. That would be a shocker. I will say the Spartanburg offense, the way they're playing now, I think allows them to be upset. They're not putting up enough points somewhere it could happen. But
they play good defense.
I think Spartanburg. I think they win. I think they'll win. But it could happen. Mike says Gaffney 29-19 for Northwestern. I think both teams might score more than that. We'll see. And he's got Greenville big in that ball game.
I can see that Greenville Northwestern game being a lower scoring though, just because that Greenville defensive front is very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
I could see them making a little bit low scoring in that regard.
Perfect. Let's look
on
now
to 1A.
Look at 1A.
All right, my team of the week, Allendale Fairfax. They'll go to Baptist Hill. Denmark Olar. They try to get out the map, but it's gonna be tough on a road trip to Blackville Hilda.
I mean, that's 2 games in a row there. Allendale Fairfax. Super surprised they won last week. Haven't heard a lot about them, but that was a big win over Denmark Olar. Baptist Hill has been a pretty good team. I think they're a little bit down this year from what they have been. Denmark Olar, the Vikings, started off really hot. Tough loss last week. Blackville Hilda, they impressed me even in a loss last week to Bamberg, 7-6. I mean, nothing to shake your head out there on the road as well. That's a really fun matchup there. I think both of those games are really good matchups in 1A.
Yeah. That Denmark Olar Blackville Hilda game, I think the winner of that game, that goes a long way to say, who's going to be some big trouble.
Yeah.
Big trouble there. Edisto go to Branchville. Williston Elko at Calhoun County.
Calhoun County is legit. Christian Zachary, the receiver, there's a Virginia commit, is a stud.
Christchurch will go to Calhoun Falls. Green Sea Floyds at Carver's Bay. Hannah Pamplico will be at East Clarendon. Great Falls will host Hickory out of North Carolina. Hemingway hosting Kingstree. Wagner Sally going to Hunter Kenner Tyler. Johnsonville goes to Latta. That's a pick'em game this week.
That's a big matchup there. The Flashes lost week 0 to North Central. Kind of surprised there. They've come back and played some good football. Malik Shippey at quarterback is a guy that I like a lot. I think he's one of my favorite players in the state, honestly. And then Latta, they've got a guy right there, I think, in the top 5 in the running back stats right now as far as yards gained. Playing really well there for Coach Eisman there. They've got a good squad there at Latta, and they continue. I think they're 4-0. So they're looking pretty good there. But
Jamarian Jones.
The Jamarian Jones, there you go, playing really well there for the Vikings. But Johnsonville, with Martin and Woodbury and Wilson and Davis, they're running the ball behind Shippey. I think the Flashes win this game on the road, but it will be a fun matchup there over in Latta.
Yeah, I'm getting over that North Central loss. I think that was just not a good game for Johnsonville. I was hoping just Kershaw County connection that North Central will be a little bit better, but they have not followed up that win well. Ridge Spring Monetta's got a tall task. They will be at Louisville Friday. Louisville just all kinds
good
of
luck.
Talent.
Yeah, good luck. The Lions put up huge number. Got shoot out. Something gave flash for 14 points. Yeah, what were you thinking, Dave? You had a shutout coming. Come on now. Another 60-0. Man, it's impressive what the Lions are doing, man. Obviously, that tough week 0 loss to Oceanside, but they have been rolling since then. I mean, Robinson and Brown are 2 of the best receivers in the state, no matter the class they're out wide for those guys. Obviously, Ian Grissom putting up just video game numbers, playing great ball there. And the defense has been really impressive. Holding teams. A Blacksburg team that I think put up huge numbers 2 weeks ago, shutting them out last week, but was a really nice game plan by the Lions defense.
Yeah, and I know we talked up Louisville a lot in the preseason. We were a little surprised by the Oceanside game. But I think Oceanside is just – they're better than what we thought they were.
Hey, Adrian, I thought Blacksburg would score a little bit too. You're exactly right, but we were all wrong, all right? We were all wrong.
We had the luxury of not having to be by the coaches either. So
love it.
All right, let's see. Moving on here in 1A, Lamar will go to McBee. Dixie goes to McCormick. Bethune-Bowman will be at Military Magnet. St. John's goes to Scotts Branch. Southside Christian hosting the Anderson Cavaliers. St. Joseph's goes to Ware Shoals, and Burke will be at Whale Branch. That's a big game in 1A too.
Yeah, I also want to go back to that Wagner Sally HKT game. Two teams that are undefeated. Could be a playoff matchup we see here. Wagner Sally they did have to cancel one game earlier in the year, but that is a really good football team between two, pretty good squads. I feel like I like Wagner Sally at home in that one, but that is a big 1A game as well. We do need to mention before we move on. Any 1A comments, Drill, before we look down into the SCISA slate for a second?
Just the Gator emoji for you guys, and then we can get
Lake love it. 60+ last week against Chesterfield. Big win there for those guys. Tough one this week, but I think they got a good chance.
Yeah.
Perfect. Looking down at the SCISA slate now, we got Jefferson Davis traveling to Conway Christian. First Baptist and Hilton Head Prep. Someone's getting their first win, both sitting at 0-3 this week. We've got Pinewood, fresh off a 77-point performance, playing at John Paul II. A big game here. Johnny asked me this earlier, I think, Jarrell, and that's PD Academy at Williamsburg Academy. The Golden Eagles 1-2, Williamsburg 3-0. Williamsburg defending 2A state champs. PD defending 3A state champs. The Golden Eagles have had some injury issues right now. Tough loss last week to Dorchester. Didn't really see that one come in there. Williamsburg at home, it's always tough. Camden Moore had a big game last week for the Stallions there. Until PD gets healthy, I think you got to lean Williamsburg here, but that's always a fun matchup down there in that area. Any thoughts on that one, John?
I think Williamsburg wins.
Wow. Okay. We got Memorial Day at Collin and Prep. An interesting matchup here. Hammond, who we think is by far one of the best team in 4A, beat Lawrence Manning 20-6 last week.
Big win.
They're playing at Wilson Hall, who's 3-0, and Wilson Hall beat Lawrence Manning 2 weeks ago. So it could be a close matchup here. I do like the Skyhawk, but that is a fun one there in the SCISA ranks. Thomas Sumter going to Carolina. Porter-Gaul going to Ben Lippen. We've got Richard Wynn going to Holly Hill. That's a good 8-man matchup over there in SCISA. Greenwood Christian going to Patrick Henry. Faith Christian hosting Newberry. Heathwood Hall at Cardinal Newman. Cross at Bethesda. Lawrence at Wardlaw. Dorchester at Thomas Hayward. Augusta Christian at Trinity. DCS at Calhoun. Orangeburg Prep at Beaufort. Our game of the week, Hilton Head Christian at Northwood. And then Clarendon Hall at Kings Academy. Joe, any other comments before we get a shout-out to our friends of the program here?
Just a little allusion to what's about to come.
Bradley, hang on for about 45 seconds, and you'll see some rankings here.
That's all we got, guys.
Love it. Let's go shout-out to our friends of the program here.
Take your financial game to the next level with Founders Federal Credit Union. Reach your full potential. Relax. Join Founders today. Visit an office near you or relaxjoinfounders.com to apply. Federally insured by NCUA, member qualification required.
Carolina Orthopedic and Neurosurgical Associates, CONA, offers the most advanced training and experience in orthopedic surgery, neurosurgery, sports medicine, and pain management in the upstate. 3 convenient locations in Spartanburg, Duncan, and Greenville. Go to CONA.care to learn more.
Okay, so we did this last year. As we've told you guys for the 5 to 6 years we've been doing this program, we don't always agree with the rankings and polls that are out there. Right, John? Right, Jarrell?
I agree.
We think a part of that. What's that, Drill?
That's definitely right.
And we think a part of it is a lot of these folks that vote, they obviously cover their area of the state, and that's it. And we like to think that we try to keep an eye on everyone in the state. So we like to think that we know a little bit about what's going on in high school football. And I will say you'll be guaranteed to never see a team in the wrong class in our poll. We will make that's a Movin the Chains Kevin Thomas guarantee right there. But, Drew, let's unveil our first edition of the poll, starting in 5A and 4A. In the 5A ranks, number 1, Summerville, tied for second, Gaffney and Lexington, and then a tie at 4th, Hillcrest and JL Mann. Also receiving votes, Burns and Spartanburg. 5A was tough for me, guys, because I feel like everybody has kind of shown a weakness almost. Summerville had a close one with Carolina Forest. Obviously, Gaffney lost a game early. Lexington went to the brink and get Stratford. JL we just don't know what to expect yet with those guys. Burns, the loss to Chapman, Spartanburg. Offensively, you got some questions there for those guys. But 5A is going to be a lot of fun, man. We've got Summerville there. Like I said, then Gaffney, Lexington tied at second. A lot of really good teams there. Any other comments, John and Drell, on the 5A slate?
Yeah, gosh, I could have put I forget who I had at that back end, but look at the streaming votes with Burns and Spartanburg. I think they very well are potentially a top 5 team in the state.
Yeah.
I subtracted from them a little bit. That Broome game with Spartanburg scared me a little bit, and of course, Burns getting beat by Chapman. I had to take away from that a little bit, but certainly have the talent. And as the season goes, you got plenty of time to make that the anomaly and the exception instead of the norm.
And how about this? How often have you seen a poll without Dutch Fork in it from us? They still may very well be one of the top 5 teams in the state, but right now they're not playing like it. So we had to leave them out there. Drills, pop up that 4A poll again real quick and discuss that. We got Northwestern. We had some split first place votes here. We had Northwestern at 1, a tie for second with Hartsville and South Florence. Number 4, South Pointe. Number 5, James Island. This is a poll where we could have gone, I feel like, 10 deep easily. I mean, so much talent there in 4A. Interesting to see. Obviously, that Northwestern Gaffney this week will tell us a lot. South Pointe, South Florence as well. The 2 and the 4 there in our poll. This is just a loaded class, man. James Island could certainly be higher. Irmo could be in there, and if they win this week, they certainly will be in there, I'm sure. Greenville wants to make a case that they're in there as well. But lots of good teams in 4A, Drell and John.
Yeah, and it was cool that we had all those teams in our top 5s, but we had them shuffled around a little bit. And, I didn't look at Kevin's poll or Jarrell's poll and go, come on, there's no way that team's number 1, 2, or 3. I mean, they're literally that top 5. You could, I think, gosh, here I am thinking on the fly. Yeah, thanks, Jarrell. I mean, you could, in my opinion, I think Northwestern, Hartsville, South Florence, you could say either one of those is number 1. And then South Pointe's good enough to beat any of them. Yep. And James Island, if you put them on the field, they might could beat all of them too. James Island's got the best defense of all of them. And that's just the top 5. If we went beyond that, I think Irmo's really, really good as well. Greenville has got as much talent as anybody in 4A. It is wide open. That's 4A is really fun. Really fun.
I think that was the thing with 4A, man. Those top 3 teams in 4A, it didn't matter. Like, it could have been any arrangement of those top 3, and then the other 2, they're just as deserving to be up there. Yeah. So that was the crazy thing about that one. But let's take a look at 3A next.
For sure, the 3A ranks. We've got number 1, a tie for first here, and we had, how about this? Between 3 of us, 3 separate first place votes. Tie for first, we got Belton, Honeypath, and Daniel in that first spot. The 3rd slot comes to the Dillon Wildcats. Then a tie for 4th, Clinton and Crestwood. Also receiving votes, Philip Simmons. This poll, another one that, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go at the very top. And then even that, 4 and 5 spot got a little tricky for me. Where do you go with that? I like Daniel. I think they're a really good football team there. Crestwood, the team that, coming off the big win there, is super impressive. But, I mean, John alluded to it earlier. I'm high on Philip Simmons. I mean, big win, St. James early in the year. Coach Bendick has been growing this program. I think the Iron Horses are for real, and we'll see more about them as the season goes along. But 3A, another really fun one there, guys.
Yeah, and, 2 teams that we don't see in that poll are, that I would like to point out, Broome and Chester, which I think as we get deeper into the season, they could inch their way up to that as well.
Camden. Camden's, they're always there, it feels like, as well.
I'm starting to fade on Camden. We'll see what they do Friday. But, again, I have no problem with BHP being number 1. I have no problem with Daniel being number 1. I think I put Dillon number 1. They had very good chance to beat Hartsville last Friday, which could be the best team in 4A. It's all over. And gosh, and again, you look at this, you go, well, hey, Clinton, they might get beat all over.
Yeah.
And then Crestwood, they just beat a team
good 5A team
that we thought was a top 5A team. If 2 weeks ago you said, hey, if Sumter played anybody in 3A, you think they beat all of them? And go, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Another, Clinton, the worry for me for Clinton is the health. We got to figure out what's going on there if they're okay. But another team that didn't, make a vote, but is certainly going to be there at the end, Buford, the Eagles, defending state champs. Not there yet, but I think we'll get to the poll point here in a week or two. But Dre, looking now at 2A, who do we got in that? We got a sweep for the first place vote. So Gray Collegiate at 1, Oceanside Collegiate at 2, Marion 3, Hampton County at 4, Abbeville slides in that 5th slot. Also receiving votes, Saluda and Silver Bluff. Gray has beaten Crestwood. They've beaten Camden. They've beaten Christchurch, all very good football teams already this season. Oceanside, I'll tell you this. We haven't talked enough about those guys. I was talking to a couple folks this week about the Land Sharks and said, hey, we've won all of our football games. We have not played very good football yet. They're going to get better and better as the season goes. Will Virgilio is getting it figured out wide for them. Obviously, riding back, being back at quarterback is a huge plus for them. But 2A is another deep class. Abbeville, they're still kind of figuring out, working on a little bit. But Hampton County, interesting team for me. We haven't seen them a whole lot yet. We'll see how that goes. But Silver Bluff and Saluda, Strom, another good team in 2A as well, guys. But I like what we're doing with Gray there at 1.
Yeah, Gray has proved their spot at 1. And I think Oceanside is a solid number 2 as well. Once you get to 3, 4, and 5, it opens up a little bit there. The other team we talk about, it's not in this poll, not to get in the vote, Fairfield Central. And they're very, very close. Yeah. They're one loss to a very good 4A Chester Cyclones, or 3A Chester Cyclones, I believe. They are 3A, right?
Yep. 3A Chester.
3A Chester. Fairfield Central, very good, very talented. Got they're another team that they play anybody in 2A. I think they can go toe to toe with them.
And there's a couple teams too I like in 2A who didn't make it on here because we just don't know enough about them. That's Woodland, and then Andrews. 2 teams that I think are pretty good, but we'll learn more as we get to rolling here. But looking at 1A now, we got Louisville in first place for us. We got St. Joe's in second, Calhoun County third, Christchurch fourth, and Bamberg Earhart rounding out the top 5. Also, votes was Whale Branch. This one I think Louisville right now has to be one the way they played football, man. They are just dominating everyone after that week 0 loss to Oceanside.
And what makes 1A really tough at this point in the season is, it's simple math, right? You've got non-region play. You've got a lot of cross-classification games. Well, you got 4 and 5A teams that are playing down. If a 1A team is going outside 1A, well, they're playing somebody bigger. Yeah. So it's, there's a lot of really, really good teams in 1A that are not on this list that have lost games. But, once they get into region play, once things start to level out and, they start playing teams that are schools that are their size, we'll get a better idea of who's who. But there's a lot of good teams that just, I can't rank a team that's got a losing record, but once you look at Southside Christian, they at the end of it, they're probably going to be in the top 5, just based on their record and what they've done so far. I can't put them in the top 5 yet, but at the end of the year, they'll probably be there.
Yeah, I mean, you look at 1A as a whole, there's a lot of talent there. You look at Blackfield Hill, who's played good. Denmark Olar, if they hadn't lost last week, they'd probably be in this top 5 here. Allendale Fairfax a big win. Latta at undefeated. No mention of Lamar yet because they played some bigger schools and have lost those games. They'll be there at the end as always. But 1A is going to be a lot of fun, I think, here down the stretch. Cross, a team that Drell likes. I don't think they were in there either, Drell. I don't believe.
No, we didn't have Cross getting votes. And I did want to, clean that up. Louisville got all 3 first-place votes from us. Their consensus 1A team there just left it off the graphic.
Perfect. Drell, any comments from you on these polls or any comments from the chat here we do it to talk about either?
Let's see. Bradley said they're looking good, so that makes me feel good.
Appreciate you, Bradley.
And then also got Greg.
Yeah, exactly right, Greg. I think, we just want to see them play a complete game. They haven't played 2 halves yet, I feel like, this season. We'll see. Corey, spot on in 1A. Appreciate
Thanks,
you,
man.
Corey.
But, yeah, that's all the comments that we got there on the chat. I'm excited about it. I'll jump in here real quick. But I'm excited about our polls, what we did. I think they all look good. We'll just move on to, I guess, pick them next. We can go to pick them.
Sure. Let's look at our pick 'em standings from Hannah Engineering. Week 3, we had a lot of high scores. I'll go ahead and tell you guys that. But our winner was Will F. with a perfect 11. Big numbers there. We had a lot of 10s. We had Haley F., J.D. Patterson, Curtis M., Brandon T., Dale S., Jimmy S., Tyler G., and Chase H. all at 10. Also a handful of folks at 9. Drell led the 3 of us with 10. I had 9. John had 8. A lot of big scores last week, and that's kind of that makes sense. We said, it wasn't the biggest slate. So that certainly turns out. But now our overall leader so far, we got J.D. Patterson at first at 35, Dale B. second at 34, Dallas and Franklin at 33, Curtis Chase at 32, along with Peyton. Then Brandon at 31, Haley, Lance, and Shannon all at 30. Jarrell with 32 between us. I'm at 30. John's at 29. Remember, folks, we do drop the lowest point total you have. We have not started doing that because we've only had about 4 because we haven't dropped any of them yet, but that will happen here in a few weeks. So if you guys have not been a part of that, we hope you do it. It's on our Twitter page, our Facebook page. It's in our website as well. Our weekly pick 'em brought to you by Hannah Engineering. It's a lot of fun. It gives you a reason to not only watch your team in your region, but across the whole state. So it's a really cool thing to do, and we do that each and every week. I do want to shout out our players of the week, brought to you by the Georgia Agency. Calvin Banks at Eastside. If you guys haven't seen this stat line, I think it was 24 for 420 and 6 touchdowns, a 17-plus yards per carry number there. Marquise Henderson at BHP goes 14 for 301 and 5 touchdowns. And then Henry Rivers at Berkeley, the young freshman quarterback, goes for 6 touchdowns in their big comeback victory. So shout out to the Georgia Agency for helping us out and sponsoring our player of the week. John Drell, any other thoughts on week 4 as we roll into what is honestly, I would say, the biggest week we've seen so far this season?
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Really, probably excited more about 4A than any other classification this week. Even with the cross classification games, I think so. Northwestern plays Gaffney. You got Hartsville and Irmo playing one another.
Yeah, South Florence, South Pointe.
South Florence, South Pointe. You got 5.
And then JL Mann involved in that. Greenville, yeah. In
you
that
got
JL Mann game.
6, certainly top 10 teams. 6, you could say that, arguable top 5. I know there's 6, 5. I know. But all playing really, really big time football games. So that's really cool. We could see a shuffle in. That poll was tough to do today. Yeah. It could be really tough to do this time next week, depending on what happens Friday.
You're exactly right. If you guys are just tuning in, we appreciate you for doing that. You can always like our page here, share it, comment, tell your friends. We're at Movin Chains, MOVINCHAINS on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, etc. Our website is movinchains.com. We do a podcast on Apple, Spotify, and Google. We do a weekly preview show here about 7 o'clock on Facebook and YouTube. It's live every week. We talk about the biggest games from across the state and the whole statewide slate. So I hope you guys can hop in here and comment with us. It's a lot of fun to get the interaction going. We do a weekly recap show. Comes out on Sunday on the podcast platforms. We do our Twitter Spaces on Friday night. It's a lot of fun. It's really an old school scoreboard show where you guys can call in, give us your thoughts on your team. We have coaches. We have play-by-play guys. We have fans all hop in. It's a lot of fun to do that and get caught up as you drive back from the ball games. We do weekly players of the week, teams of the week, pick them, all kinds of great stuff across our platforms. And I want to plug our Instagram as well. We do our weekly food reviews. It's a lot of fun to see what the concession stands got going on. Last week we had a nice slice of pizza at Hillcrest. Drill had some nice nachos and cheese. Definitely want to tune in to see our review of that coming out this week. But anything else I'm forgetting, guys, before we wrap up here our week 4 preview show?
Couple more comments. Gotta love this one.
Michael, Denmark Olar, if they had won last week, they would have been in the top 5. We didn't quite have them making our poll this week. They were just on the outskirts. We only do 5. We don't do 10. So they just missed it. I think the Vikings are still very good, but I was a little worried about that loss last week.
I'll tell you where they are in the media poll here if I can grab it.
Any other comments, Drew, we need to address?
Yeah,
They're 7th in the media poll, by the way.
We had another viewer who gave us a power poll that I'm trying to pull up, and obviously my computer's not cooperating right now. Well,
is this off of the ESPN Power Index?
It may be. Could be some FPI type stuff or something like that.
FPI, that's what it is. That makes no doggone sense.
Yeah, here we go. Finally get that up there. So we'll see if you guys can see this. Oh. Yeah. StreamYard. Come on, StreamYard.
Okay, here we go.
KGFFF, top 15. Okay. Power. This is all classes here. No, it is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, this is a power poll here.
I'll be honest with you, KGFFF. I don't agree with it. There's some very good teams in here, but I don't know if I'd have them ranked where you do. But appreciate you hopping in here, giving us your thoughts, man.
That's tough to put together.
It's a lot of when you go, but cross class, it gets really tough. Appreciate you hopping in here and sharing that with us, man. Great to have you checking in as always.
Hartsville would be very high in mine.
No, but yeah, I think that's it for the comments. I'm just like you guys, man. It was fun listening to you guys tonight. Week 4, man, it's loaded. Last week, we had some games, had the biggest upset of the year.
That's right.
That
there
was
were
the most
games that
exciting.
occurred. Yep.
we had games. I don't know how to classify them. But this week, man, I have not been as excited since, week 0, since we were over the summer. Just some colossal matchups. As always, you guys did a fantastic job breaking them down, and I'm pumped for Friday, man.
Well, we appreciate that, man. I see a couple comments here about the Strom-Thurmond game. That'll be a fun one. Yeah, Braylon Staley, the Tennessee commit, is always fun to watch, and I think they bounced back with a nice win after a bye week last week there, I believe it was. But like you said, Drell, like we said all show, John, this week is loaded, man. There's just so many big matchups. Yeah, we narrowed it down to 7 CONA games a week. We probably could have gone 10 to 15. I mean, there are that many big ones across the state. So if you guys are in town this week, go to a ball game. I mean, there will be one within 30 minutes of your house, no doubt about it. That is a legit ball game. And feel free to hop in on our spaces. I'd love to hear from you after the game. We had some good comments last week from Crestwood, from Fort D, from all across the state. Clinton, as always, BHP as always, Greenville. We have Burns. So definitely get in there and give us your thoughts on the game that you were at. It is a lot of fun. And I tell you what, John, should have some good weather, too. Shouldn't be too hot this Friday night, man. So we're getting into that fall time. So definitely a good time to catch a ball game. But as always, Moving the Chains brought to you by Founders Federal Credit Union. For Jarrell Hendricks running the board, for John Epps, I'm Kevin Thomas. This has been our Week 4 preview show. Can't wait to get to the action. We'll catch you guys next week.